a very savory topic is waiting for us, let's get started right away. And let me ask each of you, is ESG the MSG of public relations and communications today? So who shall start?
Oh, I would like to give the honor to Tammy. Ladies first.
Okay, when I first heard this topic, I was pretty amused, right? Because I mean, like when we talk about sustainability, there's so many acronyms that's thrown around. It's really like alphabet soup. And then like now suddenly we kind of have a fun twist to it with these MSG. So the way I see it, right? I mean, when I thought about it, I kind of asked myself, right? The function of MSG as an ingredient in food preparation, right? And yes, it certainly makes food tasty. It gives the extra oomph. But there are also side effects of MSG, right? Like some people end up thirsty, some people have itchy scalps and all that. So I'm of the belief, and also bearing in mind, no chef has actually won any Michelin award using MSG. Yeah. So in my mind, I see MSG as a kind of shortcut, if you will, to kind of creating a successful strategy. It's not necessarily like a sustainable way, ironically, but it's something that it's very it adds spice, right? And because of the thing, it adds spice, it kind of draws people attention to it. So there's some good side in that there's awareness, but the flip side is that, you know, it's a little bit overhyped.
Thanks for going first, Tammy. I tend to agree. MSG is seen as a quick fix. It's easy to reach for the bottle of MSG and to pour in. And MSG being an acronym with, like what Tammy mentioned, the alphabet soup. In fact, by now people may have already mistaken that MSG is another alphabet in the ESG soup. Maybe M stands for Mother Nature. Yeah, so indeed it is perceived as a quick fix.
Okay, so taken this, I guess great minds think alike, you know. So I picked out two phrases: shortcut and quick fix. You know, so I guess being a practitioner, having to deal with so many aspects of communications work, perhaps there is that temptation for a quick fix and shortcut. So is there any way around this pothole, so to speak? You know, what can a communications practitioner do on the ground when he or she is faced with an immediate portfolio to help an organization to prioritize their ESG communications?
I think from our perspective, because of our communications background, sometimes we are very quickly to lead with how we're going to communicate our sustainability strategy. But I think when it comes to ESG, we should take a back seat and say that actually let's formulate what is the plan that we have in place first before we kind of say what do we want to communicate. So I heard from someone, and I thought that was very useful sharing, where he actually said that when it comes to ESG, it's about if you are putting the front lens as marketing or comms, you're probably kind of not taking the right approach. Your front lens should really be the plan itself first, and then the communication side like secondary. So that's how I feel.
Okay.
If I can chime in, Juat, Tammy, I believe that it's outcome driven to approaching ESG. So what kind of dish do you want to consume? You want a quick fix? It's okay. Actually, there's nothing wrong with having a quick fix. We're just putting MSG and it's good enough. And maybe there are some companies who just need a quick fix and be done with it, because the aspirations are different from other organizations. Some may want a full 10-course meal. Then you got to cook it differently. And you know, cooking is both an art and a science. So it is really outcome driven. And outcome is determined by stakeholders. So who are the people who's going to eat your meal? So seldom do you just cook for yourself unless you're staying alone. But you cook for your family, cook for your friends. These are your stakeholders. So knowing who to cook for and what you want to cook, I think drives the ESG recipe.
Yeah,
actually, Yeah, sorry, Tammy, go ahead.
Yes, Tammy.
No, I wanted to say actually on that note, when Uantchern brought up about quick fix out, one topic that comes to my mind is really the discussion about the use of carbon credits, for instance, because a lot of people kind of say that there's always the pros and cons argument whether that's good or not, because that's kind of seen as a quick fix for an organization to kind of take the easy road to being carbon neutral. But like Uantchern says, right, I mean, for some industries, it's very, very difficult to be carbon neutral in a short period of time. So I think the right approach is you can take a quick fix, so to speak, but at the same time, take the time to formulate a more sustainable plan as you go along. Don't use the quick fix as the end all. I think that would be the part that we have missed the plot if we do something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so interesting. While we're on the idea of tactics, covering the carbon credits, Uantchern, are there any other tactics that seem to be like low hanging fruit that we could just take and say, okay, this is our company's ESG agenda?
I wouldn't characterize it as tactic. It seems so mechanical by diluting it to a tactical approach. For me, it's really what do you want out of it, and I think the simple approach is really the basic ingredient is the do good. Just plan to do good, and I think that will be your north star for doing sustainability. I suspect that most people overcomplicate sustainability or ESG, and one thing leads to the other, and they keep on adding to the soup, so it becomes overcooked, overdone. Sometimes rare or raw is good enough, so don't overcook it. My observation is that a lot of organizations overcook it, and it becomes it cannot be eaten. It's just too tough already. Can't digest it.
Okay, so let's just do a quick recap of what both of you just said. So planning is important, right? Much like someone preparing a dinner, a 10-course dinner for friends in the house. You plan ahead. You think of the end dish, right? Just say about the outcome. Do you want them to take time to enjoy the meal and remember it after they leave, or you want them to say, okay, so this dish is nice, but it's probably only a very skin deep kind of taste, So planning, thinking of the outcome that you want to achieve, I think are very critical, in looking at how we build up an ESG agenda for whether our company or our organization.
Yep.
Agreed.
So while we are on this very, very nice illustration of the dish preparing, so maybe it'd be good for our participants who are, communications practitioners who are listening in, who will be listening to this recording. What are the ways that a communications practitioner can prepare for this agenda, so to speak, for this banquet or this dish, as it were? Where should they start?
It's really in the process. If I can add to that discussion, Juat May, ESG can be seen as easy as a quick fix or ordering tapao. You just call Grab and then you have ESG in place, and that's is really the quick fix. But processes that are ingrained, infused into the organization, because ESG takes a long-term view. We call it long-term value creation, right? To be sustainable, to be resilient, and it's always a long-term. How long is long? Well, it's long enough. But if you do quick fixes, you order tapao from Grab, it's only momentary enjoyment. You get hungry or you get indigestion soon after that. But long-term planning, long-term thinking, you need to have processes that are strong, that are time-tested, that are improved. So it's process-driven. So my advice to PR professionals out there is that don't look at it as a point in time You know, when chefs always say that when you look at a boiling pot of water, it will never boil. At that point in time, you look at it, it will never boil. But over time, it will boil, guaranteed, right?
Yes.
So you must play the long game.
Okay, Tammy.
Yeah, I think when it comes to implementing ESG, right?
Mm.
Actually, like what I've also heard and I agree with from the survey that IPRS ran, is that actually the sub-concepts within ESG is not new, right? It's just it previously used to fall under other umbrellas like risk management, etc. I mean, compliance and stuff, CSR. These are things that companies already do, but you know, to cobble it under ESG umbrella, I think they need to look a little bit a bit more ambitiously, right? Rather than say, let's just put what we have existingly and kind of say that we have an ESG strategy. I mean, sure, you kind of fulfill and check the boxes for the reporting, but is that the intent of your sustainability strategy? Because you should be going for incremental, right? You should try to work towards improving your sustainability impact. So I think if we take the mindset that it's not just about coming up with a report for the sake of coming up with a report, but actually have a sincere intent to really want to do something to improve. And it doesn't mean doing 10,001 things like Uantchern say. It's really about focusing on the material things that matter for your business. And it's different for different sorts of business. So I think less is more. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. So let me just pick up the word about intent. How authentic must we be? Obviously, an organization, it's pressure on all sides, right? There is the financial concerns, right? There is the deliverables, you know. But yet at the same time, there's a demand. Society demands that organization is inclusive, organization is equitable, you know, all the various things that fall into ESG. So there's a lot of demand on an organization or company to be upright, right? To be above reproach. So my question is, I get the feeling it is actually quite hard to help an organization to get on board the ESG conversation. So what can we do to mitigate, in a sense, this mountain, so to speak?
Actually, for me, I actually saw it the other way, which is like I actually feel that most companies increasingly recognize they have to do something to kind of contribute. I think for most cases, it tends to be because they understand that this is becoming important to the consumers that they are serving, or it's important to the investors that they are attracting. So while this may not be like music to the ear of environmentalists, activists, and all that, right? But to me, I think the most important thing is that we are doing something about it. So you may not start off saying like, oh, I want to really do this because I feel like I want to make the world a better place. But you're doing it because of some maybe corporate pressure that you're facing from stakeholders. But I think once you get started on it and you kind of move towards improving, I think it's still a good and practical outcome lah. I think we can't be too idealistic in today's world as well.
I can add to that. One very important phrase that PR professionals need to be careful of in terms of doing a lot of things is greenwashing. So and you can wash your vegetables, you can wash your food before you cook, but after you cook it, then you wash it. I think that's going to be antithesis of what you're supposed to do. So don't gloss over. You have this temptation to gloss over things because you want to make it look good. But the taste of the pudding is in the eating, right? It may look good, but after you eat it, it doesn't taste good. So to me, it is the washing up front, the process of the cooking, and the science of making sure that it's cooked well, the art of decorating it, and making sure that the outcome is determined by the stakeholders. and you go to invite them back again for a second meal, for a third meal. So it is really that experience that you are selling, not a report, not a product, not a certification, not a box to tick. So as PR professionals, how do you tell the story of experience, that joy?
Yeah, I think I like the I like where we are going in this conversation, in this, and just picking up from what Tammy did, to look at things from a different perspective. Right now, I guess also personally, when I talk to everyone about ESG, it seems like a very daunting task, but yet it is also ESG is also a company's building block. As I realize, how do you start building your company? What is the right thing to do? How do you build purpose? How do you build an organization that lasts? How do you build an organization that would leave good legacies? And ESG becomes the building block of an organization. So I don't know what do you all think? Is that the positive spin to ESG? Right, moving away from it being a quick fix or MSG, but it's truly, what I think would be a miracle ingredient to help a company to build itself, or to help an individual to build itself, by being aware of what is important in the environment, what is important in our society, what's important in how we govern these rightful thinking and measures.
I think it can be, but the key is really the organization culture must facilitate that, because if it's treated as a functional discipline and someone in comms has to carry it, or they just hire a sustainability person, then I think that's probably not the most effective way. I think for it to really help the company build a sustainable and purposeful business is where the management must believe in it, and really the sustainability practices go real deep. So it's beyond talking about the E, the S, and the G. It's really about how it integrates within the business practices of every single unit, and the management team walk the talk and they really believe in it. Then that is where they can actually see it, driving the business forward.
Okay, thank you for that, Tammy. Uantchern, is it a miracle ingredient that I'm trying to tout?
We think of it as a silver bullet that is all the rage now, ESG. I think we need to go beyond that. It's not the flavor of the month. It's something that has been there, has always been there, and will always be there. And then talking about purpose, and Juat, you mentioned purpose. Is it difficult or not? To our Malaysian viewers out there, the Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance, in its preamble, talks about the expectations of companies to talk about their purpose and how they deliver on their purpose. So delivery on their purpose is really how do you show that they keep their promises? And as kids we say, keep your promise, otherwise something bad will happen to you. And it's the same thing for organizations. It is time immemorial. Keep your promise. Promise what you do, what you promise you have made.
So I'm conscious of time, but I really want to hear maybe just a roundup of 2 or 3 key takeaways that you all would share at the end of this very short, but I think quite intense conversation on ESG. Yes, Tammy, ladies first.
So for me, I think we don't have to feel we are alone. Always kind of do it in a group, right? I think there are many people who are interested in the topic. Let's learn from each other. External environment, even within the company, let's support each other in the ESG journey. So I think that's one. And as what you pointed out, I think one step at a time. It's a process, right? So let's just take the first step and then kind of fine tune along the way, because let's not just get so overwhelmed, because it can be very, very overwhelming when you start reading this and that and you're like, oh, where do I start? So just start somewhere, but just make sure that it's a material thing to you. I think and be authentic, right? I mean, it's really an area that you think you can improve as an organization and you believe in the cause and go for it. So that's how I would approach it.
Okay, thank you for that, Tammy. Yes, Uantchern, last word from you.
Yeah, if I can leave behind a couple of sentences for PR professionals in Malaysia.
And
Of course, in Malaysia,
regional as well.
yeah,
They are
and
all
regional.
from
So
the
a lot of
region.
a lot of companies are required to issue a sustainability statement, and a lot of sustainability statements that I've seen are very technical. They talk about standards, they talk about this and that, and it ticks all the boxes, but there's really little meaning in it. If PR professionals can say, I promise that I have done no harm to all my key stakeholders, and I do this in the long run. I think that's simple enough. In that simple sentence, I promise I have done no harm to all my stakeholders. If you can say that, then like what Tammy said, you are authentic. Otherwise, I think it's greenwashing.
Okay, I mean, thanks for that very sharp reminder. I guess to close off, the reality is communications practitioners, and in fact, anyone dealing with reporting or communications, we use language. Language is key. You know, we spoke about communications being technical. We spoke about having too many abbreviations, the alphabet soup. But at the end of the day, it's a simple, straightforward, meaningful statement that will help us to get started on this ESG, what we call an ESG journey. So maybe we could stop using the word agenda and start saying that it is really a journey, an authentic journey of accountability, of purpose for organizations. So I think with that, I want to thank you, Tammy and Uantchern, for this very straightforward but fabulous conversation. So to the participants of KL IPP, thank you for listening to us, and I hope that our sharing has been very useful and practical for you, and may you enjoy your ESG journey for yourself or for your company or organization. So thank you, and have a great conference.